Welcome to Smash the Like. This evening I'll be covering So You Were Canceled on Social Media. Don't panic. Make sure to comment and ask questions so I can add them to the stream and respond to your post. Okay, let's get this live stream started. Hey, welcome to Smash the Like. I'm Jim Kunkel. So greatly appreciate you joining me this evening on a interesting topic. It's related to social media and being canceled, and then what you should do if you are canceled. Before we get into the conversation tonight, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the sponsor for this broadcast and my content, which is coffeebrandcoffee.com. In the in the live stream description and also posted in comments, there is a special link. Right now, they actually just launched a Valentine's Day gift box special. So, and the promo code using my link, and then there's a promo code LOVE10. You get 10% off when you check out with an order. So let's go ahead and let's get into tonight's conversation. I actually had run a poll yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. A lot of great responses. I was really amazed with how it worked out in the poll. But let's take a look at that. So, do you know someone, friend, a peer, or professional who was canceled on social media? And here were the respondents. We had 58% say no. Nearly 30% said yes. And then the 10% where only celebrities get canceled. A lot of times people do think that, cancellation when it comes to social media only impacts celebrities, public figures, and things like that. But it can actually impact anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter what stage of a career or what stage of life you're in. If you're on social media, you always run that risk of being canceled. And we'll go through some of that conversation tonight. So the first thing I wanted to cover was research that was from the Pew Research Center. Now, this research is from back in 2020, but it is very relevant. I did check to see how much has changed and things like that. And seems like pretty much things have improved. Now, I wouldn't say improved. The numbers have increased when it comes to social media cancellation. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining this evening. So let's go ahead and get into this. Americans in cancel culture, where some see calls for accountability, others see censorship and punishment. I'm going to skip down here where it talks about to better understand how the U.S. public views the concept of cancel culture. Pew Research Center asked Americans in September 2020 to share in their own words what they think in the terms and the mean, and more broadly, how they feel about the act of calling out others on social media. The survey finds a public deeply divided, including over the very meaning of the phrase. You know, who's heard of cancel culture? As often is the case with a new term enters the collective lexicon, public awareness of the phrase cancel culture varies, sometimes widely across demographic groups. So again, this was based out of September of 2020. 44% of Americans heard at least a fair amount about the phrase cancel culture. And based on some numbers that I looked at across different, a couple other different sources, that number has increased to over 50%. So the majority of Americans do understand exactly what is cancel culture and what it means to some extent, although they might have varying degrees of definition of what cancel culture is being canceled on social media. So overall, and back in the study, 44% of Americans say they have heard at least a fair amount about the phrase, including 22% who've heard a great deal, according to the Center's survey of over 10,000 U.S. adults, again, conducted in 2020. Still an even larger share, 56% say they've heard nothing or not too much about it, including 38% who've heard nothing at all. The survey was fielded before a string of recent conversations and controversies about cancel culture. Familiarity with the term varies with age. While 64% of adults under 30 say they have heard a great deal or fair amount about cancel culture, that share drops to 46% among ages 30 to 49 and 34% among those 50 and older. And I think that number reflects when we were talking the other day on Tuesday about social media memes. When you have a Gen Xer like myself, we're not using social media as much as younger generations are using it. So I believe that's why that would bear out that way. There are gender and educational differences as well. Men are more likely than women to be familiar with the term, as those who have a bachelor's degree or advanced degree when compared with those who have lower levels of formal education. While discussions around cancel culture can be highly partisan, Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents are no more likely than Republicans and GOP-leaning independents to say they've heard at least a fair amount about this phrase, 46 versus 44%. And that still rings true today. All references to Democrats and Republicans in this analysis include independents who lean to each party. So when you look at, political leaning ideologies, you have relatively the same understanding of exactly what cancel culture is. Now, when it comes to the what is really cancel culture, the survey did go into a little bit. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit further here on this article because I found this really interesting, where it talks about it being people being called out on social media represent accountability or unjust punishment. And so when you looked at the demographics, if you were a liberal leaning, you tend to look at cancel culture as being held accountable for what they've posted on social media. And then if you were more of a right-leaning person, you viewed it more as an unjust punishment. So it was interesting to see how that broke down in this particular study here. But, given that cancel culture can mean different things to different people, the survey also asked about the more general act of calling out others on social media for posting content that might be considered offensive, and whether this kind of behavior is more likely to hold people accountable or punish those who don't deserve it. Overall, 58% of U.S. adults say, in general, calling out others in social media is more likely to hold people accountable, while 38% it's more likely to punish people who don't deserve it. But views differ sharply by party. Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to say that, in general, calling people out on social media for posting offensive content holds them accountable. And conversely, 56% of Republicans, but just 22% of Democrats believe this type of action generally punishes people who don't deserve it. So again, breaking down further with the political aspect of it as well. Americans explain why they think calling out others on social media, potentially offensive post, is either holding people accountable or unjustly punishing them. So the study goes in a little bit more detail on that. And you can find this Pew research by just Googling it on, if you go into Google and just search it that way. So let's talk a little bit here. Another article that I found that I wanted to cover as well. It's called welcometothejungle.com. And getting canceled, virtually losing you in reality. This was a really good article as well. And I was going to go down to, here it is right here, this story here. It was the month of June, and Gillian Phillip, a Scottish author and ghostwriter, had just finished writing the 7th installment of Bravelands, a popular children's series. She was about to start work on the 8th when she found multiple missed calls from her literary agent. The book packaging company she had a contract with, working partners, wanted to speak to her. Phillip had a hunch what was going on. A few days earlier, she had started getting Twitter messages that were not particularly flattering or pleasant, which in a matter of days turned into a deluge of hate mail. For about 24 hours, I was just getting this relentless abuse, she said. The problem was her Twitter account handle. She had updated it some weeks earlier to include the hashtag I stand with J.K. Rowling. After seeing the best-selling author receive abuse on social media, Rowling had come under fire for her tweets on the transgender community, which have been repeatedly condemned as transphobic by activists and professionals in both publishing and entertaining industries. In a phone call, Phillip's agent explained to her that her book packaging company had also been in touch with HarperCollins, the U.S. publisher of Braveland's book, and they were sacking her for associating with, again, with the J.K. Rowling hashtag. I had some sort of dread in the back of my mind that they were not going to be sympathetic because the publishing industry is notorious at the moment, okay, bowing to the Twitter mobs. And they, so, basically she got kicked out because of, her supporting J.K. Rowling. Let's see, Eleni, we should all be held accountable for our actions as adults. Depending on the issues, there are many ways to hold someone accountable, call them out. That doesn't necessarily mean they should be canceled. Who holds those doing the canceling accountable? That is so true. That is so true. So to look at what exactly is cancel culture, and I really kind of found this interesting of all the definitions that I found. But as in the article, it says here, cancel culture is a sprawling term. In general, it refers to being called out on social media or offline for racist, sexist, or homophobic behavior and opinions, or any views judged as unprogressive or offensive by a group of users who believe this person or organization ought to be deplatformed and suffer consequences. The expression itself, to cancel someone, first appeared in 1991 in the film New Jack City. Very good movie. The hashtag started to do rounds on Twitter in 2014, and after it was used in episodes in VH1 reality show Love and Hip Hop New York. And so, you had, really this early days in the 2000s, in the mid 2000s, where you had the rise of cancel culture really kind of start. Yeah, there you go, Rudy. Thank you. So let's go a little further here. The practice of canceling has become commonplace. Anyone can cancel anyone on social media, and the expression has snowballed to include a range of offenses, many of which are not necessarily fireable or even criminal. We don't have to have a mechanism to deal. We don't have a mechanism to deal with harms done to people that are not illegal. When people don't have access to forms of redress, then they can express it through a POW-on, and the internet makes it really easy to do that. That's the thing with the internet. I mean, the internet does make it, because a lot of times, you can, for some degree, be anonymous. And also, too, the internet tends to be where you can really get mass numbers of people to kind of do boycotts or, again, calling out people for posts they've done, the aspect of canceling them. And before the broadcast, actually, someone had shared me a story about something that a person had posted. And, I've always known this, that anytime you're applying for a position, and even routinely, some HR departments might scan your social media. They might look at, look at that, or if they get a word about some problematic post that you might have made. These things can stick with you for forever. The internet is forever. So you really need to be mindful when you do post things, what you post. Try to think it through and try to reflect to see if it is written in such a way that it might be negatively viewed. And then the other thing is, if you do have opinions, that it doesn't matter what side of an equation you're on, you're going to have someone who's going to be particularly upset with you if you take one position or another. So in some cases, maybe leave the politics out or certain opinions out and focus on, what's your real true purpose of social media. For me, social media is about engagement, about content, really about communication and community. So, you don't see political statements from me. You don't see anything really like that, where I'm just focused more on my industry, what I believe in, what I like. And then also, too, when it comes to my content, it's exactly the same thing. So you really want to be a little mindful when you do it, because you can run into some major issues when it comes to employers or future employment. So in this article, Measuring the Impact, cancellations come with varying consequences. J.K. Rowling has faced intense outrage online over her diverse opinions, yet her books are reportedly still selling fast. Popular food critic and blogger Alison Roman, who made controversial comments about celebrity Christy Teigen, in an interview in May 2020, has also pulled through the incident. So there are people that can pull through this. And so that's something that we're going to be talking about next. And I think what we'll do is go ahead and jump right into that article next here. But what to do if you get canceled on social media. And the thing, what you really want to do if you get canceled. This article is from getoutpass.com. And what it says for what to do if you get canceled, the most helpful thing anyone can else can do to survive a cancellation, however, is to plan ahead. Like a natural disaster, a cancellation has the power to ruin your finances, your daily living, and even your physical safety. So true on all that. You know, you're not only talking about being deplatformed, but also too, you're going to have people upset with you. It can impact your ability to make a living, future employment, and then also in the aspect, like I said, with people being mad at you, you never know. It's, you know, we live in crazy times sometimes where, you know, someone might really take offense to you, and it could cause some physical safety issue for you. But here's a reliable guide that will help you if you ever get canceled. So in preparing yourself, even if you cannot aggressively save money, avoid having all of your funds in one place is a great way to be financially prepared. Diversification, or you want to diversify what you're doing there. Yeah. Try taking, yeah, Rudy, let me pop this up here real quick. Sorry, Rudy. Yep, it is scary. Let's see here. By taking multiple part-time jobs rather than one full-time position, for instance, you can continue earning money even if you lose your full-time work. And that way you could be able to pay your expenses if you unexpectedly lose your primary source of income. You know, for a number of years, almost a 5-year period, I took a part-time job while working full-time and used that to pay down expenses and debt and things like that. So, you know, it does come in handy, but it does take a lot out of you because you're working full-time and part-time. And then if you're doing other activities, your time is pretty limited to what you can do. Furthermore, don't forget to regularly clean your online footprint to protect yourself from worse cancellation effects like doxing or hacking. That's the thing with doxing. Doxing is where someone gives out your phone numbers, your street address where you live at, your place of employment. You know, anything, again, like if you have anybody who would get angry with you, or you might have a stalker situation, you know, that can be very scary. Go back to the post that Rudy did of being scary. Yes, it can be. See what you can find when you search yourself. I remember doing that a long time ago on doing a Google search and being able to find all kind of information on myself. And they used to have it, you could ask for them to take off your private information. That was a long time ago, but still I remember it was so easy to find your information way back in the early days of the internet. You know, can you find your address online? Do you have personal information or a call-in number you don't want to make public? Put everything that could reveal your information to a potential malicious web troll in private. You can also try to remove your private information from people search websites and set your social media accounts to private. Additionally, take the necessary precautions to protect your online identity, such as using a password manager and configuring multi-factor authentication for your accounts. You know, one thing that I also do with LinkedIn, what I really kind of like about with LinkedIn is you can have followers, but for connections, they have to send a request. And I do go through a qualification. Like if you notice, I only have, you know, barely 6,000 connections, you know, being on the platform since it started. And the reason why my numbers are so low is that I do look at qualifying connections. It's both ways for me too. Is that person a good fit for me professionally? Is there mutual interest and things like that kind of make us an alignment? Or are they looking to just, you know, kind of join into my connections network for, you know, some other purpose? And I realize we're all about networking. We're all looking to be able to do business with each other and all our connections and things like that. But, you know, I always recommend with LinkedIn to go through and qualify when you get connection requests, go through and qualify. so that you can make sure that when you do have connections, that they're proper, they make sense, and things like that. Now, when it comes to other platforms, you don't have that ability, but you do have the ability in some cases to block people, to ban people, and you might want to consider doing that if you do have certain individuals who might post very offensive comments to your content, or they might DM you and things like that. Let's see here, Eleni, thank you. Do not diminish the number of your connections. The number doesn't matter. There you go. Thank you, Eleni. Eleni, thank you so much. Quality and caliber relationships matter most. Amen. And Rudy, lots of spam, background checks on employment and following. Yeah. Yeah. So, again, doing that search, find out about, what information you have online. And then again, having these password managers and things like that. Now, and again, continuing in that aspect, if you were, you're in that cancellation, or you're being canceled, or you're canceled, express your apologies. I always say too, look at what the offense was that created the cancellation, or for people having outcry. Maybe you do need to say you're sorry if you were wrong. If you felt bad after being canceled for something you said or did, apologize. However, it takes some time to prepare a sincere, thoughtful response before you do. Once you're prepared, express your apology. However, everyone might not agree with it, even when your apology comes from the heart. On the other hand, some people can tell that you're very sincere and allow you to apologize, and allow your apology to change how they feel about you. At the very least, it will lessen their desire to make you their number one enemy. Here are some of the things that you should bear in mind if you're going to make an apology. Number one, admit your mistake. Show that you're aware of what you did. This demonstrates that you're apologizing genuinely out of regret, rather than just because someone told you that you had to. If you can prove that you understand who was at fault, who was harmed, and the nature of the offense, your apology is more likely to be accepted. Number two, explain the offense. In some circumstances, it can be helpful to clarify an offense, particularly in establishing whether the violation was intentional or not. Additionally, it won't occur again. And I think when you explain it also too, you clarify your thought process. Now, it could be a flawed thought process, or it could be, and you felt it was a very sincere thought process. It just came across the wrong way. And we've seen examples of that. The story of the businesswoman who hit the wrong emoji on a social media post, and she inadvertently was, running to get on a plane and laughing hysterically at the death of somebody. And by the time she got off the plane, I mean, everyone was coming after her. Hundreds of thousands of outcries, let's say, on social media. Mistakes do happen. So I think if you can explain the offense, and especially what your thought process going into it, you can maybe in a way justify exactly what you were thinking, but also say, listen, I understand I made a mistake, or I was misinterpreted, and I did this in a crude way. Show regret. It's normal to experience guilt and shame after hurting someone or something. By expressing these emotions, you demonstrate that you're aware, and if you feel sorry for the suffering you brought, make up for it. An effective apology should include steps to undo the harm. Make a move that demonstrates that you're aware of the gravity of your error. And then, ask for support. I think that's the other thing, is you might want to ask support of others who support you on the platforms. Maybe there are certain individuals that are influencers that can come and say, hey, this is this post that was done. And I've seen a situation where, a big influencer on a platform had reached out to me saying, hey, listen, my account got zapped because, of something I posted. It was written in a certain way. It wasn't perfect, and people misinterpreted, but I can't seem to explain to, the platform reviewers, or whatever you want to call them, safety and things like that of what they're not listening to what I said. Could you come and write an email to them or post saying, help, free me or whatever. And those happen. And I've done that before as well, because a lot of times, people do make honest mistakes. But a significant side effect of cancellation is frequently betrayal of trust. People who you thought were your friends might ghost you and throw you under the bus. Nevertheless, it's crucial to avoid isolating yourself as a result. Don't fall in the trap of thinking that everyone is against you, that no one wants to assist you, and that you can no longer trust anyone. There are still people in your life who will support you. You might be shocked to learn that who they are, even though it's challenging. Keep giving people a chance to lift you when your life isn't heading in the right direction. That's so true. And, it's the same thing too. I say, when I do social media, there are people who really enjoy my content. And there are some people too that I wouldn't call them haters, but, they might be critical on why I post, or they might say something about a position I took on, maybe a technical topic or some element of, my industry, or maybe if I'm talking about digital, the digital revolution stuff, they might say something related to digital transformation, a position I had that they don't agree with it. I love that. I think that pushback is perfect. Yeah, I like this. Always remain open-minded. Very good. So another part of avoiding cancellation, again, acknowledge that each person has a different background, experience, and value. Remember that not everyone shares your beliefs. This can help you avoid saying or doing something that makes you a cancellation target. At this age, remember that you don't have to mean something to offend someone. Sometimes people only consider what they feel, not the whys behind your actions. It doesn't matter for them because the harm has been done. When this happens, try to find a way to move on rather than persuade them that you weren't trying to offend anyone. Just say your apologies, take what you can from that experience, then apply it to your life to be more compassionate and empathetic. I really found these articles really important to cover this evening and things like that. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about ways that you could be humble. And I think being humble is important. And then following after that, I do have some really good topics that I do want to cover on Smash the Like. So I appreciate everybody who watched tonight, who listened tonight, everyone who posted. And the one thing I would want to have you do after we're done with this broadcast is make sure you do smash the like. If you think this is valuable, this conversation we had tonight, share it with a colleague, a connection, a friend. And I so greatly appreciate all the support of everyone who comes every Tuesday and Thursday night to listen to me. So with that being said, everybody, I appreciate it, and have a good Thursday evening and have a good upcoming weekend. Talk to you soon.